Hey, good morning, everyone. It's time for another chapter of Grenade. If you remember last chapter, it was Hideki talking, and the name of the chapter was called Yokai, which means ghost in Japanese. He stumbled into that cave completely naked. He had ripped off all of his clothes because he fell into the mud with all the maggots, and the maggots were all over him and such. And the Japanese officer was forcing everyone in the cave, soldiers and civilians, to leave the cave and go attack the American Marines. If you remember, at the end of that chapter, they had a young mother with baby in her arms strapped dynamite around her waist before she headed out to the cave to blow herself up along with the U.S. Marines. So we're on to the next chapter now with Ray, and it's called Kakazu Ridge. So here we go. All right, boys, let's show them what the Marines can do, Big John yelled. Attack! Ray took a deep breath and climbed over the ledge of the foxhole. Stay low, don't bunch up, and run, he reminded himself. The running was the easy part. Ray was so scared, he ran like a locomotive was bearing down on him. Big John did the same on one side of him, Gonzales on the other. The hill above them was called Kakazu Ridge. For more than a month, the army had tried to take this one little hill from the Japanese, and every single time the Japanese had beaten them back. Now it was the Marines' turn. Ray, Big John, and Gonzales stayed 5 paces apart and ran low as bullets began to whip into the mud at their feet. A mortar blew up to the left of Ray, and just like that, Gonzales was gone. Gonzales! Ray couldn't stop, couldn't think about it. He kept running uphill, his heart thumping so hard he thought it would burst. He slipped and slid as he tried to get traction up the slope, hauling himself up shredded tree stumps and saplings when he could. Bullets zipped, grenades boomed, and then suddenly, Ray was on top of the ridge, what they called the saddle, the gap in the ridge where 2 hills come together. Ray could see a small valley just beyond Kakazu and another, taller mountain range on the other side. The valley might have once been green and lush, but the naval bombardment had left it a stumpy, blackened wasteland filled with giant craters. It was like looking down on the moon. Ray didn't have much more time to take in the scenery. He dropped flat and dragged Zimmer down beside him. Somehow, the rookie had survived the charge. Big John had too. He flopped down next to Ray in the saddle as blue tracer fire from Japanese machine guns skimmed the air right above them. A 4th Marine, a recruit so new Ray didn't even know his name, collapsed on the other side of Big John. Am I dead? Zimmer asked. Am I a ghost? You're not dead, Ray said. Not yet. But what do we do now, Sergeant? Nobody else made the saddle with them. Big John didn't seem to hear him, and that's when Ray noticed he wasn't wearing his helmet anymore. He didn't have a right ear anymore either. Big John, your ear! Ray yelled. It was a bloody mess, but Big John didn't seem to notice until Ray pointed it out. Ray dug in his web pack for bandages and wrapped Big John's head for him. Huh? Big John said, peering over the side of the ridge while Ray worked him. I think I can see my house from here. I can't see a blessed thing, Zimmer said. He had his face in the mud and his arms over his head. They were mercifully safe here in the gap between the ridges, but the rest of the battalion was taking heavy fire trying to get all the way to the tops of Kakazu and Kakazu West. What do we do? Ray asked again, this time yelling loud enough that Big John could hear him. Big John lay on his back, hugging his big bar, Browning automatic rifle, right? It's like a machine gun, like a security blanket. I figure if we lay low here long enough, some of those Japs from the south slope are going to get it into their heads that they can counterattack. That means they gotta come right through us. Turn around and get yourselves in position." Ray was already in position, but aiming at any attacking soldiers meant raising his head, and it sounded like the bullets were missing him by inches. It took every ounce of courage he had just to shift to face to the side, and he held his breath as he twisted his chin forward. "Come on, Ray," he told himself. "You're not going to die with your eyes closed." Ray let out his breath and opened his eyes. It wasn't much of a view, just more mud and coral and a little lip at the edge of the saddle that had kept them all from dying for the past 5 minutes. Beyond that, through the haze of smoke from mortar and artillery fire, Ray could see a sliver of green mountains beyond. That was where the Japanese soldiers would come from, if they came at all. No sooner had Ray thought it than the mortars and the grenades stopped falling. He tightened his grip on his rifle. If the IJA wasn't shooting anymore, that could only mean one thing. The Japanese were about to storm Kakazu Ridge themselves. Short chapter today, will end it there. The next one is called Hideki Run. So, and I read ahead a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. It's really, really, really good. It's going to come to a head here in just a little bit, next chapter or two. So make sure you're tuning in, having a great rest of the weekend. Little cooler, little windier out there, huh? But make the best of it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.